Hey, what's up, guys? We're going to go ahead and get this going so we can get you guys out of here on time. Welcome to the Tech Talks. This Tech Talk is we're going to go over Google Classroom, kind of the beginner stuff. For those of you who don't know, I'm Josh. I'm the Instructional Technology Coordinator here. Basically, we're going to cover just some basics of Google Classroom, some things that might help you get going. You'll notice the bit.ly is in the top left-hand corner of this presentation. It will be there for all the slides. So you can get this, take it with you. There's some GIFs in there that kind of help you with the different things we're going to talk about. The Q&A should be on. So make sure if you have any questions, throw them in there so I can handle those towards the end of the presentation. So I can go through all the stuff that we have real quick. If you're in there and you have a question that you'd like to see answered, hit the thumbs up on that so that we can move those up to the top of the Q&A. That will allow us to kind of see what questions we need to answer to hit quickly before that. And we will also be able to hit those before we're going. So here we go. First thing, if you don't know, Google Classroom is actually 10 years old today, this year. It takes me back to actually piloted this when I was in the classroom in the spring of 2014 as the first real digital learning system that I tried. It was pretty awesome. It allowed me to easily share Google Drive files with my students, and that's kind of what it still does today with some more bells and whistles. It's come a long way in those 10 years from that very bare bones product, but it's still a really easy thing to use. It's real quick, easy to navigate, and the big thing is that it really allows you to simplify sharing and collecting stuff from your students. So it's really kind of that there for you. And there's a link if you get this slide deck. There's a link to the keyword blog that talks about the last 10 years. And we're going to go over some of these features today that you can use in your classroom, kind of help you really hit the ground running as we move into this digital learning system for the school year. The first thing we're going to kind of go over are classroom pages. The big pages, there's 4 of them in here. And we're going to kind of hit a few of them, go over some of them in depth and leave some of them for next time. That allows you to kind of easily do stuff. Google Classroom really is a place to organize files more than it is anything else. We're going to cover the pages we're going to cover today are the people page to kind of see how your students go in there and some ways to add some other things in there as well. We're going to move on to how to manage your class in the classwork page. That's to be the main spot you do a lot of your stuff in there. And then we're going to quickly hit the stream page, which is the landing page, which is the first page students hit when they go to your class. Not really the most useful one of all, but is the one you need to make some adjustments on to kind of make it work smoothly for that. We're not going to get into grades much this webinar. That'll be part of the 2.0 webinar on the 25th. Or you can reach out and I can come and help you kind of set that stuff up with that. We're going to kind of help with that for there. And that's kind of the roadmap of what we're going through today. So first step, when you're setting up Google Classroom this year is new. This is something we've added this year as part of our migration to Skyward Q, as well as the Education Plus accounts we have, is you can actually link Skyward to Google Classroom so your rosters are up to date. You can pass grades back and things like that. The little demonstration I have here is for if you are in your Google Classroom and you go to the people page and you notice there are no students there, you can link by hitting that gear, finding your general, look for the SIS integration, click link, then you just follow the drop down in the steps to link your classes there. That allows you to link students, that allows you to link grades, grading periods, the 2 different types of grades we have, and it links all that stuff. So it allows Google Classroom to talk with Skyward and allows you to go back and forth. It also helps if students are added or removed in your roster, adds them in there and allows all that stuff to stay up to date. Again, this pop-up you see right here sometimes will come up when you first click that plus button and create class. It actually has you link that class first there. So you might have already done that at that beginning step, but I wanted to show you, you can link students to a classroom that was already created. So if you created one during the summer for your class, already started putting stuff in there, you can still link that with your students right there. And again, this is part of the Education Plus accounts. that we have that adds some cool upgraded features in Classroom, including this one, which we'll kind of go over and highlight as we go through stuff. But that's the first thing. In the People tab, make sure that your students are in there. If you want, you can link them to Skyward. If it's something like an after school activity or something you're doing, you can still have them join with the class code and things like that, but that doesn't have that automatic syncing to it. The big thing that we're going to spend the most of our time on today is the classwork page. Classwork page is where you and your students will spend most of their time. This is where you create posts the students can see. This is where they turn in work if that's part of it. This is where the majority of the stuff that happens in Google Classroom happens on that classwork page. One of the things when I was in the classroom that I did and trained my students to do is the first thing they would get in is they would click classwork and go there, because that's where all the good stuff happened. There are 6 types of posts you can put in here. There are assignments, quiz assignments, questions, materials, reuse post, and topics. We're going to go over some of the most important ones today that are topic, assignment, material, and reuse post, and kind of help you get those going as the basics for what we're doing through there. We're going to start off with topics because that's kind of a new feature, kind of helps you organize your page. And here we go. So this is my pro tip number 1, add topics. Topics are what help keep your page organized. It's what helps you move stuff around if you need to. Topics can actually be dragged up and down in this feed to kind of help organize that way. And the topics can be anything you really want them to be. In this particular example right here, they're done by units. You see I have a SketchUp unit right here and a graphic design unit. They could easily be weeks, where you have week 1 or the week with the date at the beginning of it, and you put what's going on that week for that thing. Or it could be lessons. So if you have lessons and the particular steps they need to follow in there, that's something you can do for that. Another advantage of topics, like I said, you can easily move them up and down. If I would need to move this SketchUp one down because it was completed and I started graphic design and we were moving it up, I could grab that graphic design header and actually move all of those posts up at one time because they're all grouped together in that topic. And you can also open specific topics, their links. So if I were to click that SketchUp topic title right there, it would actually open up in a much better view all of the assignments that I have under that, all the posts, because one of them is a material, all the posts under that, in a way that actually helps students focus on the tasks they need to complete what you have set up under that topic for them. That kind of helps, and then that the drop down actually allows them to jump to different topics in there, so that's kind of a good way to do that. Links to topics can actually be shared with your students, so they are live links. You can hit that 3 dots menu and actually grab a link to that and place that other places so students can jump directly there. That's kind of a little cool feature from there. And the takeaway from this is think about how you really want to group your posts. This sample classroom was unit topics. Like I said, I have SketchUp and a graphic design unit that I've started building through right here. Those are unit topics that I decided fit best for this. At any point in time, I could switch this to lessons if the lesson was a little larger and we wanted to break those down. I could do weekly stuff if it was a specific week, like if there was a specific week with a specific activity that I needed to do for that week, I could call it the week number and then have Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday there as my different posts underneath. And I can switch back and forth if I need to. The big thing is that this just helps you to really group assignments together so it makes sense for you towards the end of the year. Because if you think before topics, it was just posts in there. And if you used your classroom a lot, by the end of the year, you would have so many posts in there. It was very difficult to keep track of what's where, what's what. So it's real good to keep those topics there to kind of help you organize what's going on in your classroom. The second thing we're talking about is assignments. Assignments are probably what you're going to be adding the most to your Google Classroom. Assignments are posts where students turn in some type of work. This is where they are going to turn something into you, whether it be digitally through Google Classroom or physically. Assignments help you track who's turned in their work. If you are doing something where they're turning a worksheet or something physically into you, you can actually do the same thing you would with a digital assignment. You can put a due date in there, and instead of turning something in Google Classroom, they will click turn in there, and that actually goes to some analytics, which we'll go over in our 2.0 class. Some analytics that show you who's turned in their work, who hasn't, and a real quick way for you to look at your students and see who's done what. There's a few parts I want to highlight that are important to know when creating assignments. First is the title. Assignments must have a title. It can be whatever you want it to be. It can link to your curriculum. It can be something else. Anything that you want it to be that's going to help you and your students know what that assignment is. A tip I got when I was really learning the beginnings of Google Classroom before topics were numbering your assignments. It sounds strange, but numbering your assignments actually helps when students are missing assignments in your gradebook. If you put that number in your Google Classroom and you put that number in Skyward as well, a student will walk up and say, I'm missing assignment X. And you're like, well, what number is that? They're like, it's number 007. And you tell them, well, that's the same number in Google Classroom. So go back there. That tells you all your assignments. That has your instructions in there. That can help you really help manage the class and give students some agency in turning in their missing work and getting their grades in. Instructions under the title are optional, but it is a good practice to put them in there. In the example I just used, if you have instructions in there, you can tell the student to go back to that assignment and look at them. Or I'm sure you probably don't, but if you ever have students who ask you all the time, what am I supposed to be doing? Those instructions kind of help you give them some agency to go back and look at that. Like, that's exactly what you're supposed to be doing. Check classroom, check classroom. And after you said it 300 times, they'll finally get the hint to go back there and check classroom for that kind of stuff. Again, optional, but it's a good practice to put them in there. Under that, actually allows you to attach different things to that assignment. The big choices are Google Drive, which will open up your Google Drive right there, and you can attach files directly from there. YouTube, this is actually one of the ways you can actually let students watch YouTube videos through our filtering, although right now there is an issue that we're actually working through to get fixed. Practice sets you can add in through there. That's something we'll go over in the 2.0 class. And you can upload files directly from your computer if you have them there, or give them a link to another website or curriculum if you have a digital curriculum from there. When you're attaching files, there are 3 choices you have for each file, and it's important that you think about which one of these you need your students to do. The first one is view. That means students can just view the file. They can just look at it. They can't edit it. They can't manipulate it. They can't do anything with that file other than view it. The second choice is edit. This is the one you have to be careful with. This allows students to edit that one single file. So if you give them a slide deck, all 22 of your students can go in and edit the exact same one, which there might be assignments that works well for that, but it tends to kind of cause some chaos in there if they're not ready for that kind of work. And the one that you'll probably use most often, the one that I use most often, is make a copy, and that makes a copy of that file for every student. So if you have a template that you want them to all work on, you put that template in there, you make a copy for each student. As soon as they click that link, it names the assignment for them. It adds that assignment to their Google Classroom, so they don't have to add it themselves, and they're ready to go to start working right there. The right-hand side has some specifics about the organization and the dates. In that, you can assign an entire class or assign to different students using the checkboxes under the students part right there. You can assign a topic for the organization, so the topics that you created, you can add them right there, or from inside the assignment, if there's a new one, you can create a new topic right there. You can add grading information there. If this assignment is something you want to grade, you can put the grading scale you want to use there, what type of assignment is it formative, is it summative, and the scale you have right there. You can set your grading period, which again, if you're syncing, pulls in directly from Skyward. There's a spot to add a rubric on there if you need to add a rubric. And if there's any kind of writing, part of our Education Plus actually allows for plagiarism detection, which will do a search of the text in that document anywhere on the web, as well as documents that have been turned in our school before. So that kind of helps that for them. This actually checking that box gives students the ability to run that on their papers as well to make sure they're not plagiarizing from there. So that is assignments. Next thing I'm going to go over is adding a material. Materials are the same thing as assignments, only there's no ties to turn anything in. You cannot collect any work from students here. So same screen you just saw before with the assignments, only there's no grading aspects here. For example, if you had a slide deck that you went over in class today and you want to give it to your students for them to be able to review, You could add a material under the specific unit that's there. That way they can have access to it. Sharing is easier than trying to share with the individual students that are in there, or the ever popular sharing to anyone at Trinity Basin with a link, which is something we want to try to stay away from. Um, but that lets you share stuff with them from there in a quick and easy way. Again, works the same way as assignments minus the grading part. The next thing we want to go over is the reuse post. This was my most used button in Google Classroom, is what I consider the Google Classroom superpower, because it allows you to bring in a post from any other classroom you have and use in the current one. I have a story where I had a student who I was teaching in a school that I was the only one that had a computer lab for these students. So I assigned something, and he somehow got access to a computer, getting done with work in another class, finished his work from mine because he wanted to do something else on his computer when he got in there, because I posted everything before the day started. When I figured that out, I figured out I could reuse posts to allow me to pull in assignments from my first period class and spread them throughout my other 7 classes in the day, and kind of allowed me to work from there. This even works for archived classes. So there's no reason for you to keep last year's Google Classrooms active. You can go ahead and archive those, because you can still grab posts from those classrooms and use them in the ones you have today. And it just really allows you to do things like create a template course, which you could then actually work to create all of your assignments in that one template course. Then you reuse post to bring those posts into your actual class with your students, to allow you to actually build stuff when you have the time to build those assignments in there, and take some time to build them through, so you're not rushing through them before class. But that, and if you do go that template class route, you can actually add other teachers in as co-teachers and kind of split up the work for creating these assignments in there, if you have teachers that are partnering with you for different things to help you with that. So that's kind of reuse post. Again, this is the what I consider the Google Classroom superpower, because you can grab stuff from anywhere and use it wherever you need to kind of help with that. The last thing I want to hit on is the stream. The reason I want to hit on stream is because it's the first place students land, and there's a couple of settings I want you to really take a look at and think about before you get students in here, because students like to do some pretty interesting things when they get a social media stream put in front of them. That's what stream is. It's a social media style feed of everything going on in your classroom. If you look at this one, it has all the assignments that I put in. It has announcements you could create there. Announcements are basically materials that go on this front page that students land on. So if you need them to see something when they first hit your Google Classroom, this is the place to put it. It does get crowded pretty quickly, especially if you have some of the settings turned on. I'll go over a second. So it's kind of good to get stuff pared down from there. First setting I want you to look at, by default, students can post or comment on anything on the stream. This is kind of nuts, because for some reason, a lot of them, the funniest thing they think they can do is say hi to each other 74 times when they figure out they can post. So I recommend actually turning that off and turning it to where only teacher can post or comment, because that actually allows you to use it as a place to send announcements to your students. Maybe once you go over some different ways for the use stuff, once they practiced how to answer in discussion boards and how to be appropriate in online scenarios, you can maybe turn them on commenting, so they can comment on posts that you do there and ask questions there. That's an option. But students can always get in touch with you by commenting on the individual assignments that will actually notify you that they're asking questions about the assignments, without having them have the ability to comment on this stream. The second thing I want you to look at that actually helps you kind of pare down what's on that stream is assignment notifications. I prefer it to where they are either condensed, or as I do in this example, I actually turn them off, because I would train students to, if they want to work on something, they go to classwork. If they're checking for announcements, it's in the stream. If you want to have them on there so they can see when stuff pops up, I recommend using condensed notifications, because that takes away all the attachments on there and just shows them a title. They can click on that title, it takes them to the classwork part of that, but it just kind of helps keep this from being super long and very difficult to find important stuff in there, if there is a reason for you to put important stuff on in there. And with that, I'm going to hit the questions up here in a second, but thanks for joining. The new tech talk we have, the next one is on the 25th. We're going to go over class of 2.0, which is going to cover the grades is going to cover some of the more advanced things. We get Education Plus. Um, Grab that bit.ly so you can get this slide deck to kind of get some stuff in there. And let's go to the questions, see what
And
is there.
And I'll mention too, because I don't know if we mentioned this, like if you're new to this tech talk, the questions are in, it's the triangle, square, circle icon. It looks like a little bunch of shapes in the bottom right. So if you hit there and hit your question, we did have a question about accessing it through ClassLink, but it's in the GF launcher, so we clarified that. There is a question, Josh, from our great Chad Richards at the Jefferson campus. He asked about parent access and inviting guardians to Google Classroom.
Yeah, that's a good question. That is something that you can do pretty easily. Depending on how you want to roll it out, that's up to you. Whether you have the parents opt in or you just add them in there. But basically, on the people screen, um, there's two things you have to do. First, in the settings, you got that gear in the top right hand corner. You got to click that and scroll down a little bit and turn Guardian summaries on. That's what actually sends the stuff out to them. So it's the Guardian summaries. So make sure that is on in your settings in that top right corner. Then from the people screen, you'll see all of your students listed, and the middle says invite guardians. In there is where you want to put the email address that you get from Skyward. So make sure you're getting an official email address from Skyward. Um, if your parents want to opt in, because that is their official address that we send information to from there. Just to kind of the reason I recommend that is because I've seen actually another high school student get the Guardian summaries for one of their friends. They put that friend's personal email address in, and they were getting stuff from that. So it looked like the parent was getting stuff, but they weren't really getting anything that they needed there. It was a trick that they were trying to do there to go around something. So that's why I recommend getting the
Sneaky.
email from Skyward. Yeah, sneaky. Get an email from Skyward if you add that stuff in there.
All right. So we'll leave the questions open for another minute or so. But I also want to say, like, thank you guys for coming to this because when Josh and I were kicking this around this summer, we were like, maybe like 2 teachers are going to show up to this, but we had like 17 people at one point this afternoon. So that's great. So this shows us that this is something that you guys want. And if there are, like you said, the next one is on September 25th, Google Classroom 2.0. If there's other sessions after that, they're like, hey, I would love if you did one on XYZ, like let us know, give us some feedback on what you would like to see covered because this is for you guys. Like we are doing this to help you guys be successful and your kids be successful. So just let us know and we're happy to pick the topic that you guys want to see.
Don't Awesome, guys. I do not see anything else coming in, so I'm going to go ahead and